Welcome back to Trailer Trash Flips. Today is Wednesday, and over the course of the last 2 days, I have had 4 sales. So sales have not really picked up very much, and definitely not where I wanted them to be. I was looking at my numbers again just a few minutes ago before I started this video. And according to eBay, my organic impressions and organic page views are still up. Actually, they're up a lot more than they were 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, or a month ago. And it shows yesterday that my organic impressions were up 64%. My organic page views were up 74%. But my total quantity sold was down 25%. So even after I did the reset on my store, it seemed like there may have been a small temporary boost. And I think I talked about that in either the last video or the one before, where page views and impressions simply don't always equal sales. The 4 orders I have going out today are a total of $57.55. Luckily, none of those are free shipping, but I mean, that's pretty pathetic over a 2-day period of just about $23, $24 per day. I want to thank everyone who's been leaving comments on my videos, because I really do like hearing from other resellers and what their experiences are. A few have said that their sales are pretty good, but most of the comments I've gotten have been that their sales are down a good bit too. So I do appreciate those of you who take the time to leave a comment. Most of the comments have been pretty positive. There's been a few out there that tell me how I'm an idiot because I don't realize that the economy is down. But the economy didn't just fall into the crapper in the last week. So I really don't know how much that plays into the whole thing. And my focus for these videos is not to brag about high sales, complain about low sales, or anything in between. It's really been just about me conveying my personal experience selling on eBay and everything that comes along with it. And a lot of times just listing more seemed to have worked. Doesn't seem to be working so much right now. So I guess we'll see what happens, but I've got my 4 orders to pull, so I'm gonna go pull those right now. Okay, the first item is actually 2 items, and I have one of them in the E1 bin, and it is these outer record sleeves, and the other one is an H5. Well, it's supposed to be, oh, there it goes. And these 2 sold for $20.92 plus shipping. In the F8 bin, I sold the Frank Davis seafood for $11.96 plus shipping. In 011, sold a vintage Tupperware butter dish. And this sold for $9.71 plus shipping. And on the LP1 shelf, I sold a pool table cover. I'll try to get this off one-handed without causing stuff to fall everywhere. All right. And this sold for $14.96 plus shipping. So the pool table cover, this was either $1 or maybe $2. I bought it from the bin store. The seafood notebook came from an estate sale, and I want to say these were $2 that day. The Tupperware butter dish, I paid $1 for. I was actually on my way to the post office to drop off packages, and I saw a sign in a yard that said estate sale, which was really more like a garage sale. It was, for all intents and purposes, it was a garage sale. And they had several Tupperware things, and that was one of them that I bought for $1. And these record sleeves, the buyer bought 2 packs of them, and they were either 50 cents or $1. I think these were 50 cents if I remember correctly. Like I was saying earlier about appreciating people taking the time to leave comments, yesterday I spent a good portion of the day doing listings and drafts. And while I was listing, I had a comment come across from one of the videos, and they said, you really need to put the amount you paid in your custom SKU. And I agree, and it's something that I had been meaning to do for months and months and months, and I just forget. It's as simple as that. So since I was actually doing the listing at that point, and they said that, I started right away putting the amount that I paid in those listings. And now that I've started doing it, I'll probably remember, because I do struggle now to remember how much I paid for certain items. It was much easier when I was going to the bin stores, at one point almost exclusively on Wednesdays, which were 50-cent day. And then I backed it up to $1 day just to get a little bit better pick of inventory. But now with as many items that I have, I simply can't remember how much I paid for everything. So I do appreciate that comment, and I really appreciate it coming through right whenever I needed to see it. I was talking to my friend Kim, who resells, and we were just discussing the whole slow sales thing, and she's been slow too. And I was like, you know, if I wasn't so vested in this eBay thing and I was just starting, you know, I might not would pursue it, but it's just that bad. You see me pull the orders. I mean, my house is chock-a-block full of inventory. And yes, I could get an off-site storage, and I realize that. And I'm going to have to at some point very soon. But the point is that I'm okay with having this much inventory just bombarding me, because I enjoy eBay that much. But if I was just getting started and I saw how crappy these sales were and everything, I probably wouldn't pursue it. To have your house overtaken by inventory and sell 2 things a day, that's not even close to worth it. So I'm not saying that I'm about to stop selling on eBay. I'm not under the mindset that if sales don't pick up, I'm going to stop. Now, that's a very distinct possibility that could happen, but that's not where I'm at. I'm not even close to that at this point. I really want to ride this whole thing out. But if things don't improve within a reasonable time frame, you know, that's probably going to be an option for not only me, but for a lot of people. And that was another thing that I saw in the comments, that people, they're just tired of it, you know. They're tired of eBay charging all these fees. They're not getting sales. I can really see how it becomes pointless at some point. And I'm not a negative person by nature at all. I'm usually pretty upbeat. But, you know, sometimes you just see things and you're like, man, this is not looking good. So hopefully this whole deal is temporary, and hopefully sales will pick up for not only me, but all the resellers, because whatever is going on right now, I do believe it's an internal thing with eBay. I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of bin store sourcing. And when I say bin store, I'm talking about the liquidation bin stores, not Goodwill bins. I don't have any Goodwill bins in my area, although I really wish that I did. The bin stores I'm talking about get liquidation from a lot of Amazon. Probably, at least here, they're primarily Amazon, but some of them do get liquidation from Target and Walmart. I have no idea how this many products end up at these bin stores. I know they're buying pallets, but I've gotten products from Amazon that I ordered that had an LPN sticker on it. And generally, if you see an LPN sticker on a product from Amazon, it means that that item was returned, which I've gotten things that I didn't care if it was returned because it wasn't anything like it was used up. But they do put those stickers on there. So a lot of the products that I source from the bin store have those stickers, but not all of them. And the primary bin store that I source from is 99% Amazon. Many products don't have that sticker, and they're sealed up and brand new. So I really don't know how that much liquidation ends up there, unless maybe some Amazon sellers just say, hey, I don't want to do it anymore, and just keep the product. I don't really know. But there are definitely pros and cons to bin store sourcing. I'll start with the cons, because there are a lot more cons than pros, believe it or not. For me, the biggest con of bin store sourcing is that about 15%, sometimes up to 20% of the items I buy, I ultimately can't list for a lot of different reasons. I try to do a really good job of checking the items over before I buy them, but sometimes I don't find issues until I get those items home. Sometimes they may be missing parts, and that's a fairly frequent thing that I find. Sometimes the items may be broken in places that really aren't all that visible when you first look at them. Sometimes they're used items and they've been repackaged pretty well, to the point where you can't really see that until you sit down and look at them. And when I run across a used item, it doesn't necessarily mean that I can't sell it. It really just depends on what it is and if there's enough value in it for me to sell it for less than I originally wanted to. There was some welding hood gear that I sold recently, and it looked complete, but it turned out it was missing some of the side pieces. So Something like that, I'm not necessarily going to know every time that it may have been missing a couple parts. I've bought items that have been recalled, like the Pakai chips. If you remember some videos back, I bought like 20 or 23 of those packs of chips. Well, those were recalled. And when I bought those, there were some recent sold comps on eBay, so I really had no way of knowing at the time. I've also bought baby formula. I actually bought a lot of baby formula. It was $2 per can, and I had about $150 in baby formula before I realized that I couldn't sell that on eBay. So I thought maybe I would sell that on Facebook Marketplace. Nope, I couldn't list it on Facebook Marketplace either. Luckily, I found a Facebook group that buys and sells baby formula, and I was able to unload most of it there, but I had no idea that you couldn't sell it on eBay. But a lot of the items that I buy at the bin store are new and sealed, and I definitely would rather have those. I run across a lot of car parts there, and if there was some way to identify these car parts, which are generally all brand new, that would be great. But unfortunately, a lot of times they're not in a package where there are any identifying numbers or markings either on the package or on the car part. And I bought a couple things in the past and spent considerable amount of time trying to figure out what these things went to, and it's just not worth my time to spend an hour trying to find what vehicle they go to. And not even just car parts, sometimes it's ATV parts or something like that. A big one for me is when the bin stores are cherry picking their premium items to sell separately at a higher price. All but one of the bin stores in my area do this. And I can still find products to make money on at those bin stores, but it really just rubs me the wrong way when they do that, especially knowing that the primary bin store that I source doesn't do it. Whatever they get in, they put out, and it's fair game for everyone. So while I will occasionally still shop those other bin stores, I just know the odds of finding higher valued items are not as good. One thing that can be an issue is the time it takes to sort through the bins and find items to buy. This isn't always an issue at the smaller stores, but it can be, especially at the larger one that I source from. And it's a big store with a lot of bins to go through. Probably on average, I spend 3 to 4 hours per trip going through the bins. The funny thing is, it never really feels like that. It feels like I maybe been there an hour, maybe two. And I guess that's just because I enjoy doing it. There have been a couple trips where there was just massive amounts of items to go through. And I know that I've spent over 8 hours there on a couple occasions going through everything. And that's not necessarily a con if you have the time to do it. And sometimes I do, but a lot of times I don't. I just can't spend that much time there because that burns up the better part of a day for sure. Sometimes these bin stores are very crowded. If you go on a Friday, which is the brand new day for the new inventory, I went one time. Well, no, I've been twice on a Friday. The first time I went, there was a line to get in, and I didn't even make the first cut, even though I was there 30 minutes before they opened. And, you know, it was an interesting experience, but it was standing room only. And I've only been back on one Friday since then, and it wasn't when they first opened, but it's like a madhouse in there. Previously, Fridays were really bad. Saturdays were kind of busy, and it was really just normal the rest of the time. But at this point, they're busy a lot of times. Even on 50-cent day, I mean, there's a lot of people there. Sometimes it's crowded to the point where you can't really get to a bin, you've got to wait. This is not always the case, but it has been on quite a few occasions. So if you don't like crowds, it's probably not going to be the best place for you to source from. Even though I know there are other resellers there because I see them, most of the people there are just looking for items for themselves. So even if it's a potentially valuable item, if it's not something that they're interested in, they leave it behind. So that makes it that much better for me. One thing to be very careful of in sourcing from the bin store is there are a lot of counterfeit items there. One thing that I see a lot of are Five Nights at Freddy's plush. And man, there's just a lot of that for some reason. But I've ran across quite a few other counterfeit items there. A lot of things like counterfeit Pokemon cards, Pokemon AirPod cases, and phone cases, and just all kind of stuff like that. So you really have to keep an eye out on what you're buying. And a lot of that Amazon stuff, it doesn't come in any type of manufacturer's packaging. It'll just come in some generic packaging. So it's not that hard to filter that stuff out, but you do need to be careful. The last con that I can think of, especially for me, is it is super easy to oversource. I historically have bought way more product than I can list within a reasonable amount of time. I know the easy answer is for me to just not buy as much, but it's really hard for me to leave products behind that I know I can make some money on. I've cut back significantly on my sourcing, especially my bin store sourcing. There were a lot of weeks last year that I made 2 trips per week. And I wasn't necessarily buying 100 items per trip, but I was definitely over sourcing. And that's why I have a colossal death pile at this point that's taking up a lot of room. Now, with all those negatives, what would I say the pros of bin store sourcing is? I think it can be lumped up together into one statement. The bin store gives me access to thousands of items at a very, very low cost, and they're all in one spot where I don't have to do a lot of running around like for garage sales, estate sales, thrift stores, and things like that. All bin stores are not created equal, but luckily, in addition to having several in my area, I have one really good one. And the amount of good product that they have has let me consistently source things without ever going dry on inventory. You won't find the same type of items at bin stores as you generally will garage sales or estate sales or thrift stores, but it does keep that steady supply of inventory available. So that's my take on the whole bin store sourcing thing. It's probably not for everyone, but it's worked out for me pretty well for coming up on 2 years. And combined with garage sales, estate sales, and I would say thrift stores, but I can't even remember the last time that I went to a thrift store. But it's inventory nonetheless, and it's been fairly profitable inventory. Okay, it is Friday, midday, and continuing with the theme that's been going on for a while, fairly low sales, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items going out. And the good thing is none of them are free shipping, but they're all low dollar items. So I've got a total of $58.01 going out today, which is orders from yesterday, Thursday, and so far today, which appears to be the new norm. But, you know, playing into what I was just talking about with the bin store stuff, all of these items that I'm shipping today aren't bin store stuff, but most of them are. So luckily, even with these low sales numbers that I'm having, the cost of goods is very, very small. So let me go pull these orders and I'll show you what's sold. Okay, in the P1 bin, got another Bass Cat Tap. And this one sold for $11.96 plus shipping. In the E4 bin, I've got a replacement blade for an ultimate chopper. There we go. And this sold for $17.96 plus shipping. In the H3 bin, I've got some of these wheel attachment things. And I don't know, they're like for a walker or something. And these sold for $9.71 plus shipping. In the E3 bin, which is the bin I'm currently putting my listed inventory in, I sold a 115 piece box of wire wheels and brushes for drills and rotary tools. And this sold for $12.71 plus shipping. And on the LS2 shelf, I sold a 2-pack of these Taco Bell inflatables. I'm going to have to pull those off with 2 hands. And these sold for $13.46 plus shipping. Back in my eBay room, in bin A, which is one of the harder bins to get to, I sold an Anchorman Blu-ray for a whopping $2.21 plus shipping. Okay, so here's everything going out today. The Blu-ray, I know for a fact this was one of the first things I ever listed, although I don't know where it came from. I don't ever remember, well, I've never seen this movie. Believe me, I've seen less movies than anybody on the face of the earth, but so I know I didn't buy it. Maybe it was for one of the kids. I'm not really sure, so I don't know where this came from. But it didn't sell for much, so I doubt that I may not have any money into this. This Ultimate Chopper replacement blade came from an Ultimate Chopper that I parted out. I bought it, I think, for $250 at an estate sale. And this is the first part to sell, but I really just got it listed. So this has only been listed for a few days, and I still have the base unit and the lid to sell also. So this is way, way, way more than paid for the whole purchase. These wheels, which like I said, I think these are for a walker. I think these were a $1 bin store buy, if I remember correctly. So not much into those. the Taco Bell inflatables. They were either 50 cents or $1. I'm almost positive these were 50 cents each because I went on Dollar Day and there was a ton of them there. And I think I went back on 50-cent day and there were still a bunch of them. So I bought, I don't know, 6 or 8 of these. So not much into those. The little wire wheels, those were, I think, $1. Yeah, I think these were $1. So not much into those. And I think it was either the last video or one before I sold another Bass Cat cap, and these I either have $2 or $2.50 into these. So that's it so far today. The day's still fairly early. It's just a couple minutes after noon. Hopefully I'll get more orders today and maybe even this weekend. While I was packing up my orders, I got one more additional order that came in, and it's in the M1 bin, and it is this extra large meat shredder, and this sold for $7.46 plus shipping. While I was packing, this is an interesting item. I was in here watching. While I was packing, I was in here watching ADH Dave's Whatnot auction. Anyway, so this sold for $7.46 plus shipping. I would have probably never bought a meat shredder, except this one was really large, and I got it for either 50 cents or $1. So that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to the channel. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.